YouTube, I wanted to welcome you to the first installment of my podcast where I'm going to be reacting to Michigan sports teams, probably trying to do this weekly or maybe every other week. And, there's a lot to talk about right now. Obviously, the Detroit Tigers are about to be playing game 3 against Cleveland. I'm going to start with them first. Then we're going to dive into the Detroit Lions, Michigan football, and then Michigan State football. That's kind of how we're going to do it, considering they're the main ones going on. And obviously, when the Pistons start back up, I'll be reacting to them because they're one of my favorite teams that I root for as well. But starting this off, we're going to look at the Detroit Tigers. And I don't even know what word to even describe with what the Detroit Tigers are, and where do I even begin with this? They backed their way into the playoffs, had a 15 and a half game lead in the division, and didn't win. That apparently has not happened since 1940. You understand how insane that is. 15 game lead, and to make matters worse, the team you did it against in Cleveland isn't even good. They're like a kind of a version of the Tigers where they have good pitching, but they just don't hit. I mean, Cleveland's average this year is like 230, and we're struggling to, even today they get 6 runs. Nothing really makes any sense. There's a couple things I want to break down. Our lineup's just really bad. The front office continues to be really cheap and not spend any money. And when you don't spend money on batters, guess what happens? When you get to this time of the year, nobody gets hits with runners in scoring position. Where other teams, they do. And again, we're talking cheap. These are cheap billionaires. You just got to pay a baseball player. That's it. We need some bats. Not 35-year-olds that bat 230 and can't hit over 10 home runs. That's a lot of what the Tigers are, except for 3 players. Riley Green, Carpenter, and Torque. I think Torque and Green had over 30 home runs. Green had 36. I mean, obviously Green's issue this year. He's been very good except for the strikeouts. The strikeouts have been really bad. Carpenter has had a lot of slumps and he's had good patches. That's kind of what he is. And then Torkelson's just kind of been a 240 hitter the entire season. But other than that, there's just really nothing much. I mean, Baez randomly looks fine, but he doesn't play every single time. It's just no consistency with this team. And, other than the owner being really cheap, Hinch never gets any blame for anything that goes wrong with the Tigers. And I don't understand that. Like today, I cannot fathom you pinch hitting your best hitter for Jones, who, like my friend says, isn't even the youth of the Tigers. It's very baffling. Everything about the Tigers are bad. Even if they do beat Cleveland, I don't really see how they have a chance against Seattle. And they had multiple chances to win today and win it 2-0. But they didn't because they can't hit. They're just a really bad team. They rely heavily on Skubal to just win them a game. But then when you get to the rest of the bullpen and the starting pitching, you don't know what you're going to get on a given day. So that's the issue with the Tigers. The next team we're going to talk about is going to be in a lot more of a positive way, and that is the Detroit Lions. And I'm going to be looking forward to talking about them each week. I mean, the only thing with the Lions is now that you've kind of established yourself in the last 4 years as a team that is dangerous, is a team that can win double-digit games every single regular season. And, they had 1 year where they did make it to the NFC Championship game. But now it's kind of gotten to the point of last year, you choke in the divisional round as the 1 seed. You turn it over 5 times. At this point, the regular season is fine. Like, we know we're going to get to the playoffs, but what are you going to do for me when you make it? And that's kind of where I'm at with the Lions this year because I don't really I'm not going to get super upset about a loss in the regular season because I feel like this team's good enough to just get to the playoffs, and that's really what matters at this point. It's kind of like if you're a Bills fan right now. Like, if you make it to the playoffs, you're just like, okay, cool. But are we ever going to win? And that's kind of where I'm at with the Lions. Like, at some point, the team's going to get worse. We're not going to be able to keep everybody. So there is a window of, are we going to do it this year? And I don't know how much longer the Lions really have because obviously you paid Goff $55 million. You can't keep everybody for a long enough time. Once Montgomery and Gibbs are up. Their contracts are, I think, about the same time, like 2026, 2027. Then that's like probably one of the best parts of your team and the offensive line. Once that gets worse, it's like your window's done because Goff needs a great line to be successful. Like he's not a mobile quarterback at all. So a middle of the pack offensive line is not going to get it done with Goff. So at what point is there going to be that next step for the Lions? You would hope it's this year. I mean, they have a nice win at Baltimore. They dump trucked the Bears. They lost to the Packers. That was a bad game. And then they destroyed the Browns by 24. And they played a really good defensive game in that one. Now you got the Bengals on the road. In the beginning of the year, I was kind of a little nervous about this game, but, Burrow's out, and this offensive line is even worse with Browning. He has no time to throw. The Lions historically have trouble defending and putting pressure on the quarterback. But with Hutchinson back, you're seeing the impact he has. He really does make this team like from one of the worst defensive teams to like middle of the pack. And I don't think people understand how insane that impact is. That just one edge rusher is actually putting fear in a defense, where last year you were a joke. So they play the Bengals this week. I'm looking at this as this needs to be a dump truck again, probably similar to the Browns and the Bears, because this Bengals team is, I don't even know what they are at this point. They can't protect anybody who they put back there. I don't care if it's like the greatest quarterback ever. He's going to die. Really not much positives to look for the Bengals. I mean, the game against Denver, it just looked like they did not care that much. It was just one of those things where, fourth and a couple, there's like, we're punting it. We're not even going to try. We know we have no time to throw. This team has nothing left right now. The Lions need to go in there and they need to just absolutely wreak havoc. It needs to be an absolute beatdown. And, looking forward, they got the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. Then they got the Bucks, then the Vikings, then the Commanders, then the Eagles. So it's like, obviously, this is the tough part of the schedule, and they need these games that are there. And now that the Bengals game is a lot easier than we thought it was going to be in the beginning of the year, this needs to be an easy win. So I look forward to seeing, what this Lion team is going forward. I mean, obviously, Dan Campbell's proven he's still a solid coach without having really good coordinators. And you're seeing with like the new coordinators that they do have this year, it's a little bit of a different play style because the offensive coordinator, Morton, his job is not to just draw up this super insane trick plays and fool everybody. It's not as flashy, but it's like effective, balanced attack. And that's something that I look forward to seeing how the Lions do when they get to the playoffs, where we don't have Goff throw 50 times. We need to establish the run to set up the play action. That's when the Lions are at their best. You cannot be a one-dimensional team and win in the National Football League. It just does not work. You have to be able to run a little bit. You have to be able to throw and make the key plays. You have to have good special teams too. Like all of that is a factor. And I do think the Lions have good special teams as well, so I'm not really concerned about that. But again, not as flashy. Defensive coordinator, not really seeing a big difference between Aaron Glenn and I think part of the reason is this defense is a little bit, it really does come down to Hutch. I don't really think there's much you can draw up with this team. I think the secondary is still trash. And there isn't really much you can do with this other than getting to a middle of the pack defense. So I look forward to seeing what the Lions can do going forward with not as much the flashy coordinators, but maybe just continue hitting the right buttons and making sure we're still effective. And that's really all you need. You don't really need the home run, interception, whatever. You just need to get off the field on defense, and then on offense, just establish the run and use play action and make Goff as comfortable as possible, and the Lions are in a better position. The third team we're going to discuss today is where I went to college, and that is the Michigan Wolverines, their football team. And, I'm going to be looking forward to talking about the basketball team this year, too, because there's, they went to the Sweet 16 last year, and they look to have a better team coming this year. But we're not talking about them yet. The football team is 3-1. They just beat Nebraska. They are off a bye week, and they are coming in to play Wisconsin this week. Of course, it's Big Noon Kickoff because Big Noon Kickoff at this point is either an absolute blowout between two Big Ten teams or it's like a really good game that should be nighttime. That's kind of how it typically goes. I'm just looking at this, and this Michigan team, it's all about growth. The thing that's helped a lot is having Justice Haynes come in and have a very good second running back with Marshall, just establishing a better running room that we had last year. Because Donovan Edwards was basically just done at that point. He was not good. And this year, having a home run hitter and a tough runner, and they're both effective in their own way. You saw in the Nebraska game, they ran for 300 yards, and Underwood was getting involved too. All this season is for Michigan, in my opinion, is the goal is to make the college football playoff. If you can do that with a true freshman quarterback, that is an absolute win for this team. And continue to develop Bryce Underwood. And I've been seeing it. I mean, I think he's made a lot of really good throws, and he's looked promising with his legs and got a great arm. There's been a lot of drops that I think some could be on him for throwing it too hard, but also like these receivers should catch the ball as D1 athletes, so you expect better of them. You know, I thought he looked in the Central game. I understand it's Central Michigan, but 63-3. He threw for 250 and ran for like 130. You know, and in the Nebraska game, he had a long running touchdown. He could have thrown for more. There were some drops that I think would have led to bigger things. The catch by McCauley, where he literally was out by maybe a fraction of an inch. It's just one of those things where there were plays that were there that were either dropped or maybe a little overthrown, or that I think as the season goes on, you're going to see them start to make those plays. So I just think for Michigan, like, continue to kind of get by these games. And then when we play the big one, you might have enough moments throughout the season where it kind of all comes together, because that's kind of the beauty of college football, is that a team gets better every week because they're kids. They're still growing. They're not professional athletes. They haven't been playing since they were, you know, they haven't been playing for like a decade plus. Like a lot of them are like 18, 19, or 20. So you expect like their growth and development comes with the week. Where in like an NFL team, it's a lot different because, you know, some of these guys have been playing various years at a time. Like there could be like 6 years. One guy's a rookie. One's played for 15 years. Like it's just so much of that where you can't see consistent. Like we're all getting better at once. In college, you do see that a lot. And I'm hoping to continue seeing that with Michigan. They play Wisconsin this week. They're favored by 17.5 points. This should be a beatdown. And I hope this is a game that Bryce looks similar to how he did against Central Michigan, because Wisconsin is not a good team. They got dump trucked by Alabama. And honestly, I think Michigan should do basically the same thing that Alabama did to them. Have Underwood comfortable in the pocket, give him some play action, give him some nice designed runs, you know, maybe a Justice Haynes long touchdown mixed in, get Marshall involved, tough runner. You basically just put your best players in the best positions. This should be a beatdown. That's all I'm going to say about that. And then you got to get ready for now it looks like the time is in for that game, a 7:30 kickoff in USC. So obviously it'll only be 4:30 here. So that's not as bad, but obviously we know that when teams go cross country in the Big Ten, they do not have a good record. So this one is kind of like get the team ready, and then that is a big game in USC. And then you got Washington, then State. So you got like 3 very important games. And then obviously after that, you got Purdue, Northwestern, Maryland before Ohio State. And Maryland honestly looks better than I thought, but you know, Purdue and Northwestern are very easy games. So this middle stretch for Michigan determines if they're going to make the playoffs or not. If they can enter the Ohio State game 10-1, they will make the playoffs, even if they lose to Ohio State. So that should be the goal for Michigan, win out. And I think they have a chance to do it. The last team we're going to talk about here is the Michigan State Spartans. Now, obviously, I am a Michigan fan, grew up that, and went to Michigan. So obviously my affiliation is them. And I do not like Michigan State, but I still watch all their games and have friends who are State fans. So I do like to look at it from also a non-biased standpoint of like how their team looks. And Michigan State, to me, is a very entertaining football team to analyze because there's just like so many confusing things about them that the execs that put all the money into the program, the athletic director, and all the boosters that are involved. And then also you factor in, you know, like how their last coach went and his scandal. There's just a lot of stuff that was like going on. Obviously with Michigan, we know they had the sign stealing and everything like with that. But then nothing penalty wise came out of it for like anything bad. Which I guess was expected. I didn't think anything would, just considering like what level violation that was based on their code. So unless they had changed that, but for Michigan State sake, they don't have anything cheating that I know of at this point. But in terms of their production on the field, it's so weird because as a Michigan fan, you don't want them to win, but like there are certain things you kind of look at that you could be scared of seeing from them. And Aiden Childs is someone that I've always thought was a good player. It's just the issue was he does not have an offensive line, and he did not have good coaching in his first year. And I think that has been the only thing that I think is holding him back to being probably the best quarterback in the country, if we're being honest. Like, I think he's that talented. Like, he can throw, and he is insanely elusive in the pocket and outside of it. And this year he's played really good, but I just think that it's really all him. The issue I have with Michigan State is I don't think the offensive line is that good. And if he continues taking hits, he's going to slow down a little bit, which is what they do not need because he's so effective outside the pocket as well and as a threat to the defenses that he's playing against. But your defense is insanely trash. They do not put pressure on the quarterback, and they have no secondary. That's the issue with Michigan State right now. And I don't know what they were really doing in the transfer portal and spending money. Like, Michigan State makes money. I don't know why they don't spend more money to go get better players on the defensive side of the ball. They could easily do it. Like, Indiana's done it. Indiana's a trash college for most of the time I've been alive. They don't do anything. They never compete for a Big Ten championship. And this year they are right now, at this current moment in time, the last 2 years, they're 11-1, and I don't know, right now they're 5-0. So, and Illinois has been better, not like saying they're great, but they have been a better program. And I just don't see how Michigan State isn't at least on their level. I think they can get bigger, about the same level of guys as Indiana and Illinois. And, you go out and get a coach that turned Oregon State around. But the issue I have with him is I don't think it really fits Michigan State. You get a guy West Coast to come here. He doesn't really understand the importance to Michigan State's rivalry against Michigan. Like, that's their main rival is Michigan. Like, Michigan's is Ohio State. It's like, not saying I want to be. Definitely State is one of my rivals. I'm not going to be a Michigan fan and say, oh, they're not our rivals because they stink. That's not true at all. But I do think that when you come into Michigan State, like, your goal is to beat Michigan. And last year was the first year I kind of looked at Michigan State, and Michigan was not a good team. That should have been a game that's like State has a good chance to win. And they get dump trucked in the second half, and you just see Smith on the sideline. Doesn't really seem like he cares. Like, the other Michigan State coaches look pissed. I mean, Tuck was terrible. Well, don't get me wrong. That dude was terrible too. But they haven't really had, since D'Antonio, that like coach that looks like he really hates Michigan. And the players don't really look like that either. And I think that's been kind of the change of, like, Michigan's beat them the last 4 years, I think, 3 or 4 years. And it just begs the question, like, what's going to change with this team? You got a coach that you think is going to turn it around, but nothing's really changed. You're still not good. And you're in an era right now where you can just spend and buy an entire team and probably fix them in 1 year. You could do that with any team right now if you get the right pieces together. And State has just not done a good job of that. They got Nebraska this week. If they go 3-2, they got UCLA. That's going to be a win after this. Then they have to go to Signetti in Indiana. They have to play Michigan, who's beaten them 4 in a row. They go at Minnesota. I mean, that should be 50-50. It's at Minnesota, though. Like, then Penn State, at Iowa, Maryland. My point is, I just don't think Michigan State has a for sure win other than UCLA. So this Nebraska game is huge if you're going to make a bowl game. At least gives you, like, if you beat Nebraska, it's like, we should make a bowl game. We should get 2 more wins after that. But you're 11.5-point dogs on the road. This feels like this is a must-win to save the season. And if Michigan State comes out flat and Childs is the only one doing something, everyone's going to point fingers at the coach and the athletic director and say, what are you guys doing? Like, are we ever going to have winning product in East Lansing again? Because State goes on stretches. When I was younger, they were really bad for like a decade straight. Then they had D'Antonio. They were good for a little bit. Then they were bad again. It's just they don't really have consistency as a football program. And at one point, as a State fan, you're like, okay, well, when is that actually going to be? As a Michigan fan, I hope it's never. But again, I'm looking at it from an unbiased standpoint. It's like if I'm a State fan right now, I need to see more than just a really good quarterback. I need more. So who knows what they'll do. All right, that's going to conclude this podcast for the day. Let me know what you guys want me to maybe discuss more that I didn't today about all the Michigan teams. And yeah, that's going to do it. I will see you guys in the next episode.